And now call the committee meeting for Abbeville City Council to order October 7th, 2025, 5:15 p.m. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Kathy, you want to do a roll call?
Sure. Councilman Campbell.
Here.
Councilwoman Broussard.
Here.
Councilman Broussard.
Here.
Councilman Blaisdell.
Here.
Councilman Horde.
Here.
Mayor Pooler.
Okay, having a quorum present, I'll pass that to Councilman Hardy to chair.
All right, let's get this meeting started here.
Yes.
Okay, number one, to discuss a proposed ordinance establishing minimum standards of living conditions for residential and commercial properties. We have a few people that want to
Yeah.
talk.
So I'll open it up and I'll actually read the beginning because I think it summarizes pretty well. This is the ordinance that we have been discussing for quite a while now, which would set a minimum standard, consolidate our existing ordinances, and I'm going to read it, the opening part of it. I can find it in my stuff. Good, yeah. Do we have it, Christian? You have the ordinance in the packet?
I did not pull it, but I can read it.
I'll read it. I'm going to read the beginning. I'll read the whole thing. The following ordinance, having been introduced and duly convened meeting on, this is just the opening portion. Whereas the city of Abbeville is committed to ensuring that all residents live in conditions that are safe, sanitary, and respectful of human dignity. And whereas unsafe and uninhabitable properties pose a direct threat to public health, contribute to neighborhood decline, increase demands on energy services, and create risks for children, seniors, and vulnerable residents. And whereas the city code of ordinances already establishes property maintenance, health, and sanitation standards under Chapter 5, Building and Building Regulations, Chapter 9, Health and Sanitation and Nuisances, and Chapter 8, Grass, Trash, and Weeds. And whereas the effectiveness of these standards is strengthened when the city ties compliance to the provision of essential municipal services such as water, sewer, and electricity. And whereas the city council recognizes that access to utilities is a privilege contingent upon property meeting minimum standards of habitability, and that withholding or conditioning utility connections is a reasonable and necessary enforcement tool to protect the common good. And whereas it is the intent of the city of Abbeville to balance enforcement with compassion while remaining firm in the principle that no family should be subjected to unsafe and unsanitary living conditions. Be it ordained that the city council, city of Abbeville, the governing authority, acting as governing authority of the city of Abbeville, state of Louisiana, hereby enacts Article 8 to Chapter 5 of the city of Abbeville Code of Ordinances. It goes on to establish the minimum standards of conditions. The ordinance states an ordinance establishing minimum standards of living conditions for residential and commercial properties and authorizing the refusal of utility connections to properties in violation thereof. Chapter 5, Article 8, Section 5405, purpose and intent, goes on to repeat the same thing that I said earlier. Section 5406, definitions, defines property, defines minimum standard of living, defines utility service, defines unsafe and uninhabitable condition. And then it sets Section 5407, minimum standards of living requirements. No property shall be deemed fit for habitation or use unless it meets the following minimum standards. Structural safety, the building shall be free of imminent collapse with intact roofing, floors, and walls sufficient to provide shelter. Sanitation, the property shall be equipped with functioning sewage disposal and shall be free from excessive accumulation of garbage, waste, or infestation. Water supply, the property shall be connected to the city water supply and free from cross-contamination. All properties must be equipped with an operable shut-off valve on customer side of the water meter. Electrical safety, the property shall be subject to inspection and shall have an electrical system free from exposed wire. Open junction boxes are dangerous conditions. Ingress, egress, the property shall have a safe means of entry and exit in case of fire or emergency. Section 5408, inspection and enforcement. The city of Abbeville code enforcement officer, building inspector, or the mayor or his or her designee shall conduct inspections of properties upon application for utility service or upon complaint or notice of unsafe conditions. If property fails to meet the minimum standards established herein, the city shall issue written notice to the property owner specifying the deficiency and providing a reasonable period for correction. And then section 5409, refusal of utility connection, the city of Abbeville will deny water, sewer, electrical service to any property determined to be in violation of the ordinance. Utility service may only be restored once code enforcement of the mayor's designee certifies the property is compliant with minimum standards. This provision shall not apply in cases where denial of service would create a direct threat to life or public safety during freezing weathers or declared emergencies. Section 5410 provides for appeals, and any property owner agrees by determination under this ordinance may appeal in writing to the city council within 10 business days of receiving notice of violation. Any appeal shall be for determination of violation and not determine if the service should be provided as is dictated by section 5409. The city council shall conduct a hearing within 30 days of the appeal following and may uphold, reverse, or modify enforcement actions. Section 411, penalties and remedies. Any person or corporation who violates the ordinances shall be subject to fines not to exceed $500 per violation per day. Each day that a violation exists after the time frame given to remedy the violation shall constitute a separate offense. And then it has the standard clause of severability and effective date. Council, this is the first draft of an ordinance to be presented by y'all. Oh, I didn't think she had it, so I read the entire thing. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't said that we didn't have it for people to hear. It's the first pose of language. What we're looking for here is discussion. As Councilman Hardy said, there are people here that want to speak to it. We want to hear those thoughts. And this is just a committee meeting. I'm going to turn it over to, what will you?
Excuse me just a second. I need a copy of Mr. J. Campbell's,
Jay Cassidy.
J. Cassidy.
Did they not give it to y'all?
I
They were supposed to have it at everybody's station.
I don't have one.
It's right there. Is that not?
This is all. I have one.
Look like the people's up there.
Okay, thank you so much. Oh, nice to meet you.
So, and then, Councilman Hardy, I think you need to turn over to the city attorney before you open the floor for discussion.
Yes, ma'am.
Council, so what's on the agenda is the standards of living conditions ordinance that we discussed. I know there's some people here that want to discuss it, so we're gonna ask that, obviously, by law, we have to limit that discussion to this particular ordinance. I know, specifically, Mr. Cassidy's had some issues with some enforcement that's taking place with some of these properties. And I just want the council to know that I don't think you should engage Mr. Cassidy on those issues that's not on the agenda. But I would make it clear for the public and the council that the city currently has the authority to withhold the utility and water for ordinance violations. What this new ordinance would do is maybe clean up some of the language, make it more clear. But specifically in chapter 18, which deals with our water, in section 1830, it specifically mandates that a property owner must install a valve that allows for water shutting. And in section 18-2 of chapter 18, it states that when any of the rules and regulations of the chapter are violated, the service shall be cut off. Not may, shall. So I don't think the city has any choice if it knows of a violation of this particular chapter and doesn't shut off the service. Same thing for utility in section 6.7, it states that the property shall comply with all applicable provisions of this code, this entire code. Okay, and that means that any violation is an issue and can actually be fined per day. So if the city wanted to do that, it could actually fine these property owners as well. So the rules that are applicable to every electrical customer is basically a contract between that customer and the city. Okay, and they bound to the rules and regulations of the code. And this particular statute in 6.7C says that the city can discontinue electrical service. So I think there's been a lot of information that's been put out in the public that maybe the city is enforcing this ordinance that you're here to discuss tonight, and that's not the case. While it has some of the same issues in it, yes, but the city has the authority to do the enforcement that has been done. And also, based on some emails that we received, I'd also just like to note that this has nothing to do with bringing properties up to code, or code enforcement officers. This is code violations of our ordinances that we're enforcing.
This is the standard ordinance you're talking about that we have right now? Or is
What you
this,
have right now is up for discussion. And that's the only thing that can be discussed tonight.
there is nothing prior to this though?
There is the ordinances I just went over. What I wanted to make clear to the public and to the council is that the city does have the authority to withhold power at this point, based on some ordinances that have been in existence since 1950.
The water valve, our ordinances were originally codified in 1957, and the water valve was part of the original codification of the ordinances. So that requirement on property has been in place since prior to 1957. Why now? Why now? I know that's been a question. Because we lost the entire water system in 2023 because we had over 200 water lines broken where people couldn't shut off their own water. We also came very close to losing our whole water system in 2024 and in 2025. In 2025, after the freeze, where we had city employees out riding streets and cutting off water for people who couldn't cut their own water off, Public Works asked me a question about whether or not we could require water valves on these properties that had broken lines if they weren't in place. And so we went and we researched the ordinances that we have in place. We read the ordinances. We had discussions with the city attorney. And we actually had everything in place to require it, and we should have been requiring it all along and weren't. Now, I can't speak to what Kim Tuchet does when he goes out to do the actual code, permit inspections. That's different. Kim can speak to that. I don't know if he's here right now. I don't see him, but
Oh, he's here.
there you go, Kim. Right now, when somebody builds a new property, you are inspecting for the water valve, correct?
Show valve is
Yeah.
required.
So the properties that were built prior to you being or whenever they were not inspecting new builds may not have.
Renovations, remodels and stuff, if plumbing is involved, we do require the water valve to be installed.
So, that's why now. Why now is for the preservation of the water system. And the fact that it has been in place since prior to 1957. Just never took the time to read our own ordinances and apply. So I'm just gonna stop there, let everybody speak that came to speak, and then if there's anything I need to say at the wrap up, I will.
Okay, I have a question. Is this for landlords and citizens?
It's for every utility request.
Okay, all right then, because I received, a text today where we have a young lady who's right now with kids needing $400, $1,400. Mom deceased, dad deceased, nowhere to bring herself up to code. And I'm not saying that she doesn't want to, but I have to speak out for people who we're imposing this on at this moment without 6-month notice, giving people time to work on this. I'm all for it. And everybody that I've spoken to, I said, look, I'm for the code ordinances concerning everywhere somebody live, dilapidated structures, keeping your properties clean, landlords. I have problems with people moving out or landlord evicting and wake up, ride the district, and trash is everywhere. However, I think this is extensive. I know that it's going to cause a homeless problem for some, like the young lady. Everybody, and I've said it for 8 years, Tony, you're my witness. Everybody don't have it like that. Everybody does not have it like that, and I understand that we must move forward. I'm for moving forward with ordinances and making Abbeville a place to live where we can all be proud of. This is just quick and in a hurry, and I just think that we need to, what is expected, you said it, Mayor. But I think that we should have received this some time ago. People not just in my district, but poor people who can't afford it, who's living on, government assistance. And not all of them are lazy. Let me set that straight. Some of them, it's no fault of their own. And before I start crying, I just need to say that I need to speak up for those people tonight.
Let's stop and get a sense of your contradiction that says there may be ordinance for certain items like trimming trees or installing water valve. None of those ordinances appear to authorize the city to withhold power until these items are complete.
What are you reading from, the letter of complaint or?
I'm reading from Jenny Cassidy.
City attorney, you want to speak to that?
I think I just explained it that we do have that problem.
Yeah, it says the city has ordinance, but I mean, it's a contradiction to me because none of those ordinances appear to authorize the city to withhold power until these items are complete.
You asking me or you reading what he
He's
said?
reading.
We just want to know if that's
Yeah.
true.
That's not true. That's not correct. Chapter 18, section 1830, 18.2 and 1830, and chapter 6, section 6, 7, A and C. We have the city authority. That's the ones I just went over.
And when was that ordinance passed?
Oh,
Years ago, I guess.
Well,
I just thought it was a contradiction, but
Yeah.
if the ordinance already exists,
Everybody may not agree with me, and of course, I'll let you guys speak, but where I stand right now, I would ask that mayor and council, consider, consider, income, availability of funds, because the young lady, she will be maybe 2 to 3 months without electricity before she can save that money to meet our criteria. And again, I want to be very, very clear out there to the audience. I ride my district and I see dilapidated structures. I see some that really need to be torn down, that are not livable for people. But some of what we're imposing, and again, I'm not talking about the haves. I'm talking about the have-nots to come in and say, okay, $1,400. You city tell me that I need it. I can make a phone call. This young lady, her mom and dad are both gone. So if she's without electricity, can't cook, can't see, can't do homework with her kids, I just feel like we need to enforce, but we need to have a heart while doing this. And to just rush and throw it down and accept everybody to accept it, I don't think.
Well, I'm going to be clear, this is not rushed. We've been talking about this for about 8 months, right? So to say it's rushed is not true. I agree with you. There should be compassion and consideration, right? I don't know which property that lady is, and I don't want to get into that discussion here at the table. But every time that we have any resident who is in a situation where they cannot afford things, we try to put them in connection with resources, right? So I just want to say that. I know that we rode by one house that was, an order was given for utilities. There were no windows. All the windows were boarded up. The reason you don't put utilities onto that house is because you put utilities on and a fire breaks out and that whoever's in that structure can't get out safely. We went to actually, I'm not gonna speak to it. I'll let Chris Gotro speak to some of the that they've denied.
I'd like to hear from Mr. Cassidy, who's had the time to come out here tonight.
Well, actually, it's actually the chairman that you direct the meeting. So Chairman, can you direct the meeting? So I don't do it.
Thank you all very much.
first of all,
Very good.
what is your title?
I'm a real estate investor.
So what do you have to do with Abbeville?
I own properties in the city of
Well,
Abbeville.
yeah, I own property too, but I mean, I can't go around.
Well, no, it has to do with me. I'm getting,
You were hired to do that?
no, sir. I have properties that I own in the city of Abbeville.
He owns a little over 20 properties in Abbeville.
Yeah, my question was, what authority did you have to, write this letter and make inspections on people's property?
No.
He had big inspections, no, sir.
That's from the city inspecting my property, sir.
Yeah, you wrote this letter?
The first 2 pages.
Yeah, right. Well, that's why I asked about the contradiction, because it says that the city was not authorized to do what, our council said.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
okay.
So, good evening, council members, mayor, and fellow property owners. My name is Jay Cassidy, and I'm a property owner here in Abbeville. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to y'all tonight. I have serious concerns about the impact this ordinance could have on its residents, especially those who are less fortunate. The more I think about this proposal, the deeper the rabbit hole goes. Once enforcement legally begins, it may never end. For example, you have mentioned holes in the floor, but how big is considered unsafe? What about a hole for a Cox television cable or another utility line? There's no guidelines. Today, you are forcing me to pick up sticks in the backyard. A small pile, just 4 foot by 1 foot tall. What if you show up next time? I disconnect or transfer power and notice a missing shingle on my roof, flaking paint, or a section needs repainting. Will you force me to repaint my house or change my roof? I've already had power withheld at 2 houses in the last 2 weeks because of minor issues that failed these city inspections. Before this ordinance has even passed, I have been forced to make unnecessary upgrades. Thank God I am fortunate enough to be able to make them, but many residents cannot afford these unnecessary repairs. When does it end? What are the guidelines? How is this being determined? I've reviewed the ordinance being proposed, and I want to make something very clear. What's written in this document is already being enforced across Abbeville, even though it hasn't been yet passed by law. This ordinance gives the city the power to withhold utilities, water, sewer, and electricity for any violation of any ordinance, not just safety concerns. It means you can lose access to power or water for minor items like a missing shutoff valve or shrubs being too close to a house. It also allows a mayor's designee, someone who may not even be licensed or qualified, to label your property unsafe, cutting off utilities before you've had any fair hearing or appeal. I also want to note that while there may be ordinances for certain items like trimming trees or installing a water valve, none of those ordinances appear to authorize the city to withhold power until those items are completed. And in my case, these requirements are being applied to a 60-year-old house where such upgrades are not only costly, but often impractical. Yet enforcement is already happening as if this new ordinance were law. That's not fair, and it places an undue burden on both property owners and tenants who rely on these utilities. This also raises a serious legal question. Under Louisiana Revised Statute 40, Section 1730.33, disconnection or reconnection of power has specific legal requirements and protections for residents. Any actions taken by the city must be fully consistent with this statute to avoid putting families at risk. In the last week, I've heard a story of a woman not being able to hook up her power because these unnecessary repairs will cost $1,400, leaving her home without electricity and her and her family stranded. I heard another story of a woman trying to escape a violent relationship who could not move into a new rental quickly because the existing water valve was installed 50 feet away from the meter instead of right near it. Are we going to create a homeless problem in this community? Enforcement must also be fair and consistent across the board. Every property owner should be held to the same standard. If some homes are forced to make upgrades while others never have power disconnected or are not held accountable, it becomes arbitrary and unjust. The city must not selectively enforce these requirements. The reality is that most residents in the city are not wealthy. Many cannot afford unnecessary repairs. This ordinance could result in more houses sitting empty without power or water, denying people access to basic necessities electricity, food, water, and shelter. These are essentials that can never be taken for granted, and this ordinance puts them at risk. Property safety is very important, but it cannot come at the expense of basic human necessities, fairness, or legal clarity. Any enforcement must be clear, legal, reasonable, and consistently applied to all residents. In closing, I respectfully request the council consider tabling this ordinance and allow utilities continue being handled in the same manner as they were prior to this proposed intervention. I appreciate your time and thoughtful consideration.
No, I understand.
We have anybody else who wants to speak?
I'm a property owner and I have the same,
Wait, make sure they state their name.
Tammy Thompson. Tammy Thompson, we own rental properties in Abbeville and have been owning them for over 30 years now. And we've never come across this situation until a week or so ago with the same situation happened with one of our tenants trying to get the utilities hooked up. I don't know, she said 2023, I believe is when you said it came into effect.
Prior to 1957
Okay, but 2023,
was the first freeze that,
you said that's when y'all decided, or y'all went back to that year to decide that they needed water valves?
no ma'am. What I said was, why now? Because in 2023, we lost the entire water system, having to shut off water because people could not shut off their own.
So it took 2 years to come to the conclusion that we now need water valves?
No,
No,
that's not what I said.
okay. Anyway, I have the same concerns he does. So thank you.
Matt,
State your last name, Matt.
Matthew Davenport. I've had 20 houses at one time down to 10. You mentioned you had 225 that were leaking, and the city had to go turn them off. Perhaps look at your ordinance and charge $50 if the city has to go off to do that. You know, add something to that so you get the benefit of it to cover your costs. But to go and shut off power and utilities because they don't have a valve, you know, what's next? You know, like I was telling Jay, rent control, y'all gonna tell us what we could charge for a 2-bedroom house? You know, where does this end? You know, you know, I bought houses from people that came to me begging me to buy their houses, just like Jay. They want to get out, they're older, and you buy it and you inherit a tenant. That tenant can barely pay the rent as it is, okay? And so to me to go and put more stuff into a house, I just soon evict the people and do it. That crosses my mind. Do you want to be a slumlord, like some people call it, or do you want to make money and evict the tenant? You tell us it's
Well,
gonna.
I'm going to ask your landlords to have a heart because I met one of my landlords right here in Abbeville and in my district. And I met the lady who could not meet her rent.
Yeah.
We allowed her to stay for 2 months, making a payment arrangement with her until she was caught.
And most landlords make arrangements with their people, you know, but to go and say the power, if they forget to pay their power and they get it shut off and you say, you got to change 6 windows, fine. You could go and stay at Walmart because nobody's going to go and keep that same $400, you know, who's got $400 tenants? You ain't making money with a $400 tenant, but you're doing it to be a good person. You know, so this is coming to effect and tree branches and that kind of stuff. Water valve, I understand that. I think that's not a big fix for landlords, okay? Landlords, water, we could do that. That's easy. But people that can't afford it, that's different. But now you have 225 people that you know you went to, send them a letter and say, hey, look, either you pay the $50, you know, or you do that. Some stuff, branches, I know we can pass by most people's houses in here, and the branches are in our yard from our neighbors or touching our house. I grew up with a landscape company. People plant shrubs too close to their house. You're gonna go and withhold their power for that? Now, okay, let's be smart here. You know, we're all working together. Let's say, oh, let's agree. Let's do, you know, some stuff. And I've heard even y'all want to put outside disconnects for electrical too.
So let me say this. You shouldn't repeat what you heard outside of this room because you can get the facts here, right? So let me tell you this. I'm gonna let Chris Gotro, Public Works, speak to
Chris will be done.
what his current approach is with this, right? Just so you can understand that. And any electrical requirements that have been stated for anyone who came to turn on power was with review of the electrical department of the city based on fire hazards and, Chris, go ahead, you got the floor.
So, most people that spoke, I've been involved in most of all of this stuff here. Somebody that spoke, they had a weatherhead that was 6 inches pulled away from the house. Could have killed somebody. So there's reasons why we turned down power. Somebody spoke about this abused lady. Well, that house had screwed windows. So if they have a fire, she can't get out. The windows are screwed from the outside. So this is the type of stuff that we're running into. Councilman Plaisance came on a call with me, complimented me on how I handled those people. Those people had cancer. I didn't know that when I went there. I had compassion. I worked with those people. They had a water shutoff valve that wasn't within the proper distance, but because of the cement there, we allowed them to have it at the house. So we do work with the people, you know, but some people don't want to call and be reasonable. We found broken windows. Who deserves to live in a house with broken windows? When you run the air conditioner, where does the cold air go? Outside, correct? So then you can't afford to pay your $600 light bill, much less your rent. Boarded windows. Several houses with boarded windows. How do you get out in a fire? I mean, if you think that's okay, but then do nothing about it. Holes in roofs. One house we went to, there was a hole in the roof. The lady had already moved her stuff in there. When it was going to rain, the water's going straight in the house. Okay? There was a fire in that house. The electric meter was melted. The disconnect was melted from the fire. He wanted power put on. Doors. We went to a trailer house. The door was screwed shut, nailed shut. How did they get out the house in a fire? Outside wiring, interior wiring ran from the house to the shed with interior wiring. That don't pass. Water shut-off valves. I mean, that's the big topic of discussion right now. House ID numbers. It's something simple. But when fire and police try to find a house to save somebody, they can't find a house because there's no address on it. That's an ordinance. I don't have a vote. I just enforce ordinances. I don't have a vote. You have the vote.
And we all took an oath to uphold our ordinances and enforce them.
Trees on roofs. Evidently, y'all don't care about it because y'all talking about it's nothing, but a tree branch on a roof in a strong wind can go through the roof and remove the shingles from the roof, right? And then the water leaks all over in the poor renter's house that they can't even afford to pay the rent now. We inspected one. There was a tree almost growing in the house. We asked them to cut the tree away from the house so it don't grow up into the floor of the house. A lot of wires that's not in conduit on the outside. Can't be like that. That's a fire hazard. I mean, everybody wants to mow their yard, but they don't want to weed eat, so the grass around the side of the house is that tall. I mean, that don't fly in my book. Correct me if I'm wrong. Trash and junk. I get calls from council people every day about this address and that address having trash and junk in the yard, so we go to enforce it, and that's a big deal. Okay, so we cleaning up yards one at a time. Same house with the screwed windows. Portable air conditioners in the windows with cardboard taking up the extra space in the window. Cardboard with holes in it. How's she ever going to cool her house? So she removed the air conditioners. She unscrewed the windows. Got power on the house. I went back last week. I knew what was going to happen. The air conditioners are back in the window, and the air conditioners are back in the window, and the windows are screwed shut again. But now it's not on my conscience. It's on the landlord's conscience. If that woman gets killed in that house because she can't get out, that's on her. That's not on me. Dilapidated outside structures. Everybody's got a storage shed, but nobody wants to take care of it. They're all falling down. Nobody wants to take care of them. Okay, there's another problem in the city. Sewer pipes that are broken. There's a such thing as cross contamination. When stormwater and sewer mix together, it's not good. It causes a rise in the sewer plant intake of water. Also, sewer goes all over the ground. Okay, that's a public health hazard. So all we ask is for you to cap the pipe. That's all we ask you to do. It's a $5 cap and a 1 minute finish, but some people can't do that. Talked about piles of branches in the yard. Okay, they were gonna, supposedly on Facebook, they were gonna burn that pile of branches. Well, I don't know if they know it, but there's an ordinance in the city. You can't burn in the city. So pick up the branches. Once again, sewer pipes broken, uncapped, cleanouts broken. Two-story house, electrical disconnects, a fire hazard. The stairs going up to the two-story house were all rotten. They wanted fiber on the house. We refused them. A missing siding on side of houses with holes that big in it. I mean, I don't think that's right, but y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Fences, dilapidated fences. How many times do y'all call me that fences are falling down in houses, code violation? Well, we're fixing fences now. And carports falling down. I don't think that's too safe. If a carport, half of the carport's falling down and you want power on a house, I don't think that's too safe. So this is all the things that we're finding. I am tasked with the job to do this. And I'm gonna take the heat for it because I'm tasked to do it. And it doesn't bother me. But you tell me what you want to do and I'll go enforce whatever you want me to enforce.
And the mayor stated, and she's correct, that we were elected to do our job, and that is to follow the ordinances. And yes, I do call when a neighbor calls. I will call 3-4 times a day sometimes when a neighbor calls me and say, I don't want to live next door to this. My problem here tonight is what we're asking. I'm not talking about trash and I can't understand why people don't cut brushes when they're lawnmower and don't let it overgrow, cut it. I report all of that when I get calls from neighbors. I'm concerned about people being without electricity. You described a window with an air conditioner that had cardboard. I just said that some people do what they can do and live the way that they can live. That's how I feel. I'm telling you, that's how I feel, Chris. I said, whereas I have a complex in my district, people are getting sick living with mold. That's a huge, huge concern. It's a concern on what you're talking about, but please try to understand me tonight. I'm talking about what everybody can't do, what some of us can do. We have to have some excellence, and I'm not making excuses for them. I see it, and some of the families I know. So that's what I'm talking about. For 8 years, I've been trying to clean my district. For 8 years, I fussed about trash. The neighbors call me. I tell them I'm going to report it. I call you sometimes, 5-6 times a day. Chris, we need to get this straight. I fill out that report y'all tell me to fill out. Sent you one where a lady stopped me in Walmart last week. However, about trash. However, some of this is just, I think it's expensive.
So the cardboard on the window, that's a landlord. To me, the landlord should be responsible for that air conditioner to be in there the right way with plywood.
Because I don't know everything that took place.
And this is the same landlord that this all started about because she rented a house.
I'll be specific.
Yeah.
I would like to impose a question.
Wait, hold on 1 second. Hold on. I'm helping the chairman out because he's not used to running meetings. It's Councilman Plaisance called for question. Do you want to continue? Which means wrapping up discussion. Nope, this is an ordinance committee meeting. You can take no action. We can bring it back and discuss it further later. We can take a vote and bring it to full council for consideration, what, this is the initial introduction of the ordinance that we've been working on, and you guys have been asking us to bring a solution for. So do you want your call for question to stand, Ms. Plaisance?
Yes.
So that wraps up discussion right now for this discussion, right, Bart? I'm gonna let the city attorney. Okay. So, Chair, we have a call for question. Question has been called.
Yes. Call Kim.
What are we gonna vote on?
I'm gonna move on to table
Wait
issue.
a minute, I want to be clear on.
You actually don't have to take any action whatsoever. We can just bring it back up later or not bring it up.
Well, I'll just move that we table this discussion tonight and bring it up at a later date.
Okay.
So we can tweak this.
Will it be a
ordinance.
substitute motion?
No, that's regular motion. Call for a second.
Second.
Anybody second that motion? I second. Should I do it for you?
Yes.
Motion and a second has been made. Mr. Chairman will now call for a vote.
All in favor?
Roll call vote.
Oh, okay. Councilman Kim,
Yes.
Councilman Brute, Councilman I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes. She said yes?
Yes.
Okay, I say yes. Okay.
Unanimous. And you
Now,
can adjourn. You can-
in adjourn.
Okay.
No, I'll get you that.